Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Liam's Hockey as we take on another week here, sliding through the month of January, going by very quickly. And I know what you're all saying. Hey Liam, isn't tomorrow Wayne Gretzky's birthday? Yes it is, but we'll save that celebration for another time. I may bang one of these out tomorrow. We'll see what happens with the Sens and the Vancouver Canucks tonight. Only NHL action. It's been a pretty busy schedule, up to date, notwithstanding a few postponements with, the Central Division, such as it is mostly. As we all know, Dallas is just back on track after cleaning Nashville out over 2 games on this weekend, finally getting going. Florida is stalled at 2 games, but hopefully getting going soon. And same with the Carolina Hurricanes, who I believe have just played 3 games. And it was announced earlier today, not all of them, but a bunch of the rescheduled dates. So if you're a fan of those teams, and you haven't seen it, you can certainly go online and get the dates in February and March when they'll be, for most of them, not all to date, but most have been rescheduled already. So far, so good. Fingers crossed. Few COVID hiccups here and there, but nothing widespread, and the league continues to roll along. So good news there. Just a couple quick points here today, talking points. Couple of Connor stories, I guess. Connor McDavid and Connor McGregor. Yeah, I'm not really a huge UFC guy, but I got turned on to this guy a few years ago, and I certainly have been following along with his career, flamboyant and outlandish as it may have been, and it's been fraught, right, with a lot of successes, but a lot of failures too. I mean, if you call making $100 million fighting Floyd Mayweather a failure, he gave a good account of himself in that fight, even though it got stopped, I believe, in the 10th round. Regardless, he got smoked pretty good on Saturday night by Dustin Poirier, who I think is ranked number 3 in that weight class for UFC, which is 155 pounds. Connor won the first round, but took a series of leg kicks to the right leg in the first round, but repeatedly in the second round, and man, it just took all the steam out of him. And when Poirier poured it on, didn't really land like a bomb from the floor. He landed a couple of good shots, but anyway, there you have it. He was down and out, and it was stopped, and we'll see what happens. They're both 32 years of age. Poirier looked pretty good. So did McGregor for 1 round. So I don't know what remains for his career. So there's a little UFC update for you. Look, he's Irish. He's gregarious. He's outgoing. He's got his own whiskey. What's there not to like for me? I know I should have a proper 12 when I do my shot later, but I don't. I'm going to be doing Jameson's as I always do. But I have tried proper 12, and it is a good whiskey. If you haven't had it, haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. It's very, very good. Whether Connor goes again, he will. He's going to fight again, for sure. So we'll see. Maybe a trilogy with Poirier. They fought 7 years ago with McGregor winning. He was a different man then. Boy, I'll tell you, saw a lot of video leading up to it. But anyway, he got caught with some good shots. It got stopped, and Poirier, deserved winner. And we'll see what happens next for McGregor. Certainly be no tag dates for the guy, that's for sure. The other Connor, McDavid, I went on Twitter last night. I watched the whole game. And after it was over, look, we've seen him do 50 amazing things, right, in 5 years plus, whatever. I mean, he has been absolutely superlative with a capital S. But last night, it was like every shift, is what it seemed like to me, watching it, was every shift this guy was on. He was generating something. It was incredible. He picked up 3 assists. He got 2 primary assists on the last 2 Oilers goals, including the one to Leon Draisaitl that ended up being scored with less than 1 second to go. It was 0.6 when it actually crossed the line. 0.6 of a second. Connor set him up from behind the net. He made a couple plays. He set up guys. I was on Twitter going back and forth. I don't know, these people who always want to throw somebody else's name in. I get it. I get you want to look back and say, hold on a second. What about Pavel Bure? Or the other guy today sent a whole YouTube video of Jaromir Jagr highlights. Like, give me a break. Jagr looks like he's skating in snowshoes compared to Connor McDavid. Please. Nothing's taking anything away. No one is. I'm definitely not taking anything away from Jaromir Jagr. Has an unbelievable first ballot, incredible hockey player, one of the best of all time. I mean, he's in the top 10 for sure, top 5, 6, not 5, but top 7, 8. He's in that range. Pavel Bure, unbelievable, electric lightning on his skates, incredible. But neither of those guys or anybody else that I've ever seen in my life since Bobby Orr have I seen anybody skate and handle the puck with the speed, the quickness, and the agility, and the ability to make a play at that high rate of speed with the puck than Connor McDavid. Bobby Orr was in his prime in the early 70s. As we all know, that's 50 years ago. And you can cite them all. You can say Lafleur, Perreault. You can say Dion. You can say Gartner with his speed. I don't care who you say. Please don't give me Jaromir Jagr. Connor could go faster backwards than he could. You got to understand, I'm talking about a style here. A style. And there's nobody in hockey right now wearing skates that can match this guy at the speed with which he carries the puck and what he can do with it at that speed. Haven't seen anybody like that since Bobby Orr. And it is remarkable to see. I caught that game last night, and he didn't have one of his signature plays per se. I mean, he got 3 assists. He didn't score. He was all around the net. He set guys up. One of the lines I used on Twitter, I forget if it was last night or this morning, you'll only get this if you're from the area. But I said he fed more guys. That's the expression, right? Everyone knows hockey. If you're feeding a guy, if he scores, you get an assist. Hey, you fed him. I said he fed more guys last night than AJ's catering at the Shroomfest. Now, you got to be from the area to understand that. But if you are from the area and you understand it, that's the analogy I'm using. Because AJ's catering feeds about 700 men at the Shroomfest when it's running annually, without this freaking pandemic. And Connor McDavid last night, if these guys could have scored, your Cassians and your Nugent Hopkins and your Turrises, I mean, he set up half the roster, it seemed like, last night. He could have had I'll tell you what, he could end up at some point with a 10-point night. I'm telling you right now. I know Wayne didn't do it. And one of the nights that Wayne had 7 after 2 periods against the Minnesota North Stars, he was sicker than a dog. And I think had he been healthy enough to finish that game, he might have done it. But it does say something about the unbelievable night that Daryl Sittler had on February 7th, 76. The anniversary of that coming up, my God, it's going to be 45 years in just a week and a half or so. But I think Connor McDavid could have a 10-point night. It's going to be tougher against all Canadian division, but he could certainly take advantage of that Ottawa defense. There's no doubt about that. That's a hurting unit. Holy lifting. Sens should have a decent game tonight, I think, against Vancouver. Vancouver are a lot better than their record indicates. Right now, both them and Edmonton have been caught up in the Montreal juggernaut, and their records are probably a little bit better than indicated on paper. What we're seeing right now, that should be a good game tonight. Stützle's back in the lineup, and I like the lineup that Ottawa's dressing. I think Vancouver will win it. I'm going to say 5-2, something like that. Could be 5-3. I think they'll score 4 or 5 goals. I think Ottawa's going to score 2 or 3, so I'll call it that way. But they're playing 3 times in 4 days here, and I just think Vancouver's going to be pretty anxious tonight to get a W, and that's what's going to happen. But I think Ottawa's going to win one of these. I think they're going to finish last, but, just keep your chin up, Sens fans, and, it's been a grind, and got a tough goal there with that owner, but we'll cross the bridges as you come to them, and we'll see. The only game tonight. Looking forward to it. A couple other things. Matthew Tkachuk. He's a guy I would want on my team, I think, but it's unfortunate that you can't take some of these guys and parachute them back into the era I grew up in, watching the NHL. First of all, if anybody's going to try and tell me, like, take your Calgary Flames blinders off. He absolutely jumped on Jack Campbell's back and smashes his head with his knee. Look, it's in their DNA. We haven't seen a ton of cheap shots from Brady yet. It's only a matter of time. It's just the way they're wired. They got it from their dad, and I don't give a shit about his nickname, and he was a 50-goal scorer and 200 PIMs and one of only 4 guys to do that, and he's Reggie Dunlop or he's Walter, whatever. His son is a piece of crap, and he just did it last week to Travis Hamonic. He smashed his head, and there's no repercussions for this. It's reprehensible. Look, that's my opinion. I watched it 50 times today, and he absolutely 100% deliberately jumps on Jack Campbell and smashes his head. It's absolutely mind-boggling. If you haven't seen it, you can go on and see it. If you think different, you think he just lost his balance and went down that way and he didn't put his left knee down deliberately, hard, on purpose, right on the back of Campbell's head, well, you're as much of a moron as he is, if that's the way you feel. And he did it just last week to Travis Hamonic. He smashed his head into the ice, and Hamonic had to go off. I don't know if he's played since. The only way to straighten those guys out, and you know, I mean, we saw the fight, right? Saturday night, the prerequisite fight. I'll give Edmondson all the credit in the world, man. He stepped up. I thought maybe Josh Anderson, I had a sneaking suspicion he maybe was going to do it. But Edmondson stepped up and fought Tyler Myers. Pretty good scrap. He got the better of it, but no harm done. Meanwhile, Armenia is out, right? Who knows for how long. He's concussed. No suspension on the play. That's fine. Blindside, predatory. Okay. All right, Brian Burke. You know, okay. Yeah, we can freeze frame it right down there, and his shoulder was right in. It doesn't matter. Berkey said there should be a fight, and there was, and hey. And Myers not really known for that. Tkachuk, meanwhile, is a POS. And the only way to combat that is like Cassian did in that first go, and then they had the subsequent one because, of course, Tkachuk turtled. And we all know what that gave us, which was a phenomenal extension of the Battle of Alberta last year. Having said all that, I know what I would do if I was coaching. I would listen. I'm just going to tell you straight up. I would have 3 guys on my team, and they would be collecting a pretty big payday. This would be totally illegal, totally contravening the rules and regulations of not only the National Hockey League, but the Players Association and everything else, and I don't give a flying F. Because I would have 3 guys, and I would say, your job tonight is to make sure one after another that he doesn't finish the game. I would steal a page from Terry O'Reilly, like he did when he was coaching the Boston Bruins, and he told them all before the game, I don't care what happens tonight in the game score-wise. Claude Lemieux does not finish this game. And you can ask Gary Galley if you see him around Ottawa. You can ask anybody that was on that Bruin team. Because they made sure that Claude Lemieux did not finish that game. And Montreal beat them 8-1. And when O'Reilly came in the dressing room after, post-game speech, great job, boys. Great game. See you at practice tomorrow. And turned around and walked out. And that's what I would do with the Matthew Tkachuks of the world. Nothing is going to change. You're going to say, oh, wait till this guy gets him. Wait till that guy gets him. Oh, he's lucky he's not playing Ryan Reeves. What? Big deal. He'll drop the gloves and fight. He'll have a fight. But you're not stemming the tide of the gross negligence of his play one iota. Not one. And it's reprehensible as far as I'm concerned. It's sad. It's borderline tragic. And somebody could get really hurt, you know? He's going after guys' heads now in a gutless fashion. The headlock on Hamonic, slamming it in from behind on top, and now jumping on the back of Campbell. What's next with the guy, right? Those shots on Cassian last year, like how that wasn't penalized, not the first one so much, but the next couple, like it's not a wonder Cassian snapped. And it's great because it showed to Chuck largely what he is, which is a turtle. But having said that, you're not hurting this guy like he's trying to hurt other people. And that's what needs to happen. He needs to be hurt. So I could never, ever, ever go back to men's league in any way, shape, or form at my age right now. Because the 2 or 3 guys that play at 30 and over, 40 and over, 50 and over, that think there's a scout in the stands and they want to go home and tell their wife they got somebody tonight, and they everyone's got to work the next day, but they're still running around with their stick up like this and they're cheap shotting guys or whatever. I would tomahawk somebody in the throat. I'll tell you right now, I would do jail time, but I would absolutely lose it on some 2-bit piece of crap arsehole in 40 or 50 and over hockey trying to run me, for just because they can't control themselves out there. And this is the biggest thing in their lives. And imagine magnify that by 10,000% to get to the NHL. This is their livelihood, and you can't curtail this in any way, shape, or form. Department of Player Safety, please, Department of Player Idiocy. They don't have a goddamn clue what they're doing. Anyway, enough about that. The Habs, another win. They're off until they do play the Tkachuk. They play Matthew on Thursday. Who knows? He's got Toronto again tomorrow night. We'll see what happens, if anybody can do anything. Just go out and get the win again. That was a hell of a hockey game, by the way. That was a great game last night. Edmonton-Winnipeg, like a phenomenal hockey game. That Toronto-Calgary game was a phenomenal hockey game as well. And kudos to the Leafs. Actually, that's the best game I've seen them play so far this year. The other night against Calgary. Was it yesterday? I think so. That was the best game I've seen them play. So, I know Matthews dressed and he scored. Their goals, yes, were chintzy and kind of fluky. But they all count, man. I mean, nobody cares how they go in. If it's legal and it goes in and it counts, so be it. So, good on them. I'll tell you. We'll do a count after 10 games and see. I made my predictions at the start for the North. I called it Toronto, Edmonton, Montreal, Winnipeg, Calgary, Vancouver, Ottawa is what I called it. So, I'm in and around kind of there. I mean, the Habs are doing better than I anticipated. And as I said, some teams off to, I think Edmonton, I figured them to be a little higher. But big win for them last night. So the only thing I want to say is, I'm probably going to say his name wrong, but the Czech-born Swiss kid who scored the hat trick for Chicago yesterday. Now it's Pius. Is it Pius? Is that how you pronounce his first name? And his last name is Suter. So I'm just assuming it's Pius Suter, but I can't remember what the play-by-play guy said yesterday. I caught a good chunk of that game too. That was the early one. It started, I think, at 12:30 before the football games. I watched a good chunk of it. Big win by the Hawks. This kid got 3 goals. So this is an interesting. We'll finish on this. Just getting the whiskey ready. But this is an interesting way to look at this from an anecdotal or statistical point of view. So you've got your guys in NHL history who have recorded a hat trick in their first ever games. And there's a number of those guys, right? It started back in, I think Johnny Quilty was one of the first. Anyway, there's a few guys that have done it in NHL history. A hat trick in their first ever games. Real Cloutier, Fabian Brunstrom, a few other guys. I think even Derek Stepan with the Rangers, I think, did it as well. And with Ottawa now. And there's a couple others anyway. I know I'm missing Real Cloutier. I think I said him. Anyways, a couple guys. So what Suter did was the first goal that he ever scored was part of a hat trick. So that's a different classification in terms of how you would say if you wanted to ask that as a question. And it brings in a bunch of other players, guys like Pat LaFontaine, for example, who the first ever goals he scored as part of a hat trick, and others. There's been a few other guys to do that as well. But what an unbelievable life story this kid is. I believe he was born, if I'm not mistaken, I think he was born in the Czech Republic. And must have somehow moved over or came over to Switzerland, played in that was where he basically played his minor hockey. He came and played hockey here in the OHL for Guelph. And he had a big run with them. And he was never drafted. In fact, he was with the Ottawa Senators. If you guys remember, they have those rookie camps at the start of every season. And in either 2017 or 2018, he was with the Ottawa Senators. Rookie camp. They didn't offer him a contract. But anyways, he was here. Kind of like Marty St. Louis back in the day as well. Let me just pour myself a nice, great, big Irish whiskey here. And we're going to toast that young man right now. Anyways, 3 goals for him in the 6-2 win. And the last Chicago Blackhawk to ever score his first goals in the NHL as part of a hat trick was a man from Fort William, Ontario, I believe. His name was Bill Kendall. I heard them on the American broadcast going yesterday and said, oh, some guy in 1933. I said, Billy Kendall, come on. And then finally the guy said his name. Whoever was doing the play-by-play yesterday did a good job. I'm not sure who it was on the American broadcast. Chicago, Detroit. Anyway, Billy Kendall did it on December 17th, 1933. They beat my Habs, unfortunately. Still pissed at that loss. Hey, scoring for Montreal was a real Joliet, and I used to drink with him at the Prescott Hotel, so kind of a neat connection. And Kendall got a hat trick. Score was 4-1, December 13, 33. Now, Kendall went on to win the Stanley Cup with Chicago that year. So he's got his name on the Stanley Cup. He's got his name in the Chicago Blackhawk record book from 1933. And yesterday, January 24th, 2021, he was joined by Pius Suter, if I'm saying that right. So that's who I'm toasting today. Everybody have a good one. Stay well. Be safe. Enjoy the hostilities. G'day.